Hello, this is Squadaland back with another episode of Squadaland. The last episode, potentially for a while. We'll talk about that later. Let's go ahead. It's been about another 40 hours, which seems to be whenever I hit 40 hours, it seems like a good time to make a video, so I'm going to go ahead and make it. We're back here in the entrance of the park, where we've had a couple of changes, because we're going to go to the right, and we've actually got stuff to the right this time. I wasn't sure how to fill this little spot because it kind of has the hill that holds up the railroad tracks behind it. So I didn't want too big of a building. So I just went with this real tiny cart, which I realized I was like barely selling coffee out of any of the stands this game. So it's a little coffee and milkshake thing. Just a little hut there. Nothing too special. I did realize as I was looking at the hub, I felt like something was wrong with it, and I couldn't figure out what, and I realized that some of the entries into the lands were like at 90-degree angles, and it just didn't flow well, so I've kind of readjusted it. Obviously, there's new buildings over there. We'll get to that in a second, but first, we'll kind of talk about the first train station's largely been built. I'm not sure if it's 100% done yet, but I really wanted to mimic the Sky Highwire station. That was what I called it. Highwire over there. So it's kind of got the same architectural style. Would have been built before the kind of redo of the whole entry area that's kind of going on. It looks a little different to everything else. The train is still not operational. In fact, the tracks are not even complete currently at the moment. But I kind of wanted to build this train station because I kind of wanted to just get the main entry area done. So that's effectively what's happened here. Just some flowers and stuff. Very simple theming on this. Not too much going on. There is a couple of changes over there with the roller coaster, but we'll actually circle around to it as we go here. We'll quickly run here, and we'll enter the nice timing on the splash because it kind of teases what's going on here. We kind of got an area that's half, well, actually a lot more than half done, because a lot of the trickier stuff's done, but the right area of the park has really come a long way, and I can't walk forward right now for no discernible reason. There's an invisible wall there. Okay. Good. And I got through it. Now I can't get through it again. Great. Okay. We're through. Boy, I'm biting my tongue and saving it all for the end. So we kind of, this side of the park, I kind of want to go with a sort of New Englandish Cape Cod sort of thing, which it's funny because I was basing a lot of this on, I just like the Cape Cod area of American waterfront at Tokyo Disney Sea, but I thought, man, it's kind of a weird inspiration for an amusement park to be based off of one of my favorite areas of my the best theme park in the world for something that's supposed to be a regional amusement park. But then I remembered Yankee Harbor at Six Flags Great America also has the same type of theming and is much more appropriately leveled to this. So I felt more justified going for this sort of idea. So I actually looked at more images of Yankee Harbor, even though it wasn't really what I inspired this. But I kind of like how the buildings turned out. We got a store here in the middle. A restroom on the left. We'll get to the restaurant that's behind the restroom, but we'll go to the right first to our first major attraction. I honestly didn't know what to call this, so I just wanted... At first, I didn't build the rest of the area, so I wasn't sure I was going to turn out, so I wanted something that said, "This isn't Wild West." So I'm like, I don't know, the Catskill Mountains are in New York, so it's Catskill Falls now. And I did double check there are some waterfalls in the Catskill Mountains. Also, it gave me the benefit of calling that the Catskill Sawmill over there. But yeah, it's just pretty bare bones. We'll go the premium route here. Bare bones log flume. Nothing too special. In fact, it's this is pretty much all of the theming for it. I really wanted it to be much more of an amusement park log flume. And they tend to just be basically a nice ride in a trough through the trees. So, not really much going on here. Loading area, pretty dead simple here. I'm just going to load into the ride, but we're not actually going to ride it because honestly, it'd be just a lot of floating through trees and a little bit of floating above trees. We'll show it off from the air in a little bit. But otherwise, we'll just continue on here. Oh, I will say this exit path is going to be a little weird. The idea in my head of the canon of this park is, in the olden days, this path here would lead to a picnic grove area, which some of these amusement parks kind of have a picnic grove that's like way off to the side for large, usually like large group functions. I don't remember the circumstances of why I was there, but I'm 99% sure that I had a group thing at the Six Flags Great America Picnic Grove. But anyway, that part doesn't matter because the idea is that it would have been torn out for the park's newest expansion, which would have been the next part of the park that I'm going to work on. We'll see when that is. But yeah, that's what's going to be out this way, so there's going to be nothing at the moment. But yeah, we'll walk along this. This path's a little stupid because it's technically low. Like, normally you would have it looking down on the log flume, but I don't know. For some reason I left it at this level because I couldn't figure out a good way to, like, ramp up. I don't know. It was dumb. I'm probably an idiot for doing that, and maybe I'll redo it. I did have a nice little viewing area where you can go up and actually see the splash. Potentially get splashed yourself while you're up here. Did make sure one side is a ramp and the other side is steps so that it is wheelchair accessible, even though there's no wheelchairs. We have the ship shape store. Again, here in the middle. You can go in either door there. The guests can. This swinging ship, not yet done at all. I basically just put it here because I wanted to make sure, if we go all the way back here, I wanted to make sure that as you're going down this path, now I'm stuck on the other side of the invisible wall again. I wanted to make sure that it was kind of like front and center as you went down this path. It's kind of like a weenie at the end of this little path. And I also wanted to make sure, obviously we'll talk about that in a sec, if you're going down this way, even though there is a store here in the middle of the path, you still get a good view of the falls. But yeah, here we have the, what did I call it? Fisherman's Feast restaurant. Kind of a hodgepodge of buildings I was looking at when I made this. I was looking at a place which has obviously been renamed because it's very bizarre. What the hell? Capone's? It's named after Al Capone, but it's in Yankee Harbor in Six Flags Great America. I think it's been renamed over like the past couple years because I want to say even in Google Earth, some images, or like the wandering around in Google Maps, some images have the old name and some images have the new one. But it's kind of a mix of that building and a little bit of, there's a building in Tokyo Disney Sea, which is like the Cape Cod Cook-Off, which is a huge building. I really wanted to avoid using that building because it was way too big and like nice for this type of park. So I kind of mixed the two elements of the two together. I do like how it turned out. I think this whole area, the buildings are relatively simple, but I do like how they turned out. They kind of sell the vibe I was going for quite well, at least in this half. Here we kind of reach a dead man's zone between these two attractions and the shops and the roller coaster, which we'll get to. It's just stuff I haven't really done yet. I figured there'd be a viewing area for the spinning roller coaster that goes off the path and gets a little closer to it. And then, like, restrooms somewhere along here. But, yeah. It's weird because this update doesn't seem like it's been 40 hours of progress, but that's because this goddamn roller coaster took so much time to build because it's very, 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 very generically themed. But to make up for it, I just kept adding stuff to it, and then it ended up being, like, a hell of a build. Like, it has an entire themed perimeter fence and stuff, and, like, a bunch of topiaries and bushes. Oops, I accidentally paused because I was trying to jump. I think it's Alt, yeah, to jump. So, yeah, it's, like, way too much detail for a ride that really doesn't deserve it. And part of that was because I got so far into it that I'm like, you know what, this is going to be a blueprint. And if it's going to be a blueprint with the whole theming that people can work up on, download in the workshop, then I'm going to make sure it's about as good as I can make it. So yeah, we'll keep going. We'll get to the Star Flyer in a sec. But yeah, it's just a basic metal structure, very generic, like Cedar Point stuff called Maelstrom. Named after the well, I shouldn't say former ride at Epcot because the ride still exists, but it's Frozen Ever After now. Honestly, a lot of people miss that ride, but I didn't like Maelstrom at Epcot all that much. But I do like the name, so I used it. The sign has a lighting effect, which we'll look at night, but it doesn't work because this game's great, and nothing has no flaws. Biting my tongue. One load at the end. But yeah, just bare basic. Very short queue, but that's because these rides are very low capacity. So the queue is actually deceptively long. I don't know how I want to ride this right now. I think I'll go ahead and hop in here. It loads and dispatches about as quick as it can, but in this game it's kind of slow because of the way that... in a normal park, people would be loading and unloading at the same time, whereas in this game, it makes everyone wait to load until everyone has left the boarding area, so there's a delay. But yeah, we'll take a ride on this. I think I'm actually, for the finished video here, I'm going to have a picture-in-a-picture of the guest view and the bumper view, because the guest view spins, because this is a Maurer spinning coaster. But that also makes it kind of hard to watch for some people, so... And also kind of hard to tell what's going on. But yeah, I spent a lot of time making sure that this was as smooth as could be, while also being pretty realistic. In order to boost its capacity, it has quite a few block brakes there to boost trains. Not as many as it probably should. I still feel like the friction is wrong in this game, and it just runs out of energy real fast. But yeah, it's like... I'd say the area around it is nice, not themed, just kind of nice. I was looking a lot at Spinning Dragons in Worlds of Fun in Kansas City, which is also a spinning coaster, but it's a Gerstlauer spinning coaster, so it's not really the same. But I used inspiration for that, for like how the decorations were around that ride, which is to say just some nice bushes and flowers and a lot of planters and stuff. But yeah, that's pretty much that ride. This exit ramp is really wonky because for some reason the minimum path width is like 4, and then you have to use the edit tool to make it narrower, and the pathing tool just completely murders ramps when you do that because of the way the pathing tool works. Again, great game, no flaws. But yeah, so that's this ride. I'm very proud of this. Oh, I should say these Maurer... One thing I like about these Maurer spinners... Because originally, I was going to have a... what was I going to have? An antique car ride here. But after working on the last area so much, I'm like, you know what? I want to build another roller coaster. So in the headcanon of my park, there used to be a scenic car ride here that was torn out and replaced with this roller coaster. I also kind of thought about putting a Wild Mouse in this park, but honestly, I was starting to look at the coaster lineup at this park and realized it was getting dangerously close to Carowinds' lineup, which is a bad thing, because Carowinds has a terrible roller coaster lineup beyond the top 4 rides. So I went with a Maurer spinner, which fits the same sort of scale as a Wild Mouse, but I've ridden 3 of these, and I like these a lot more than a Wild Mouse. I think they're pretty good small rides. But yeah, so, and they also have just like ridiculously fast lift hills, so I tried to replicate that here by definitely boosting the lift hill speed. But yeah, all in all, very pleased with how this ride turned out. It's getting a pretty good reception on the workshop. It does have some custom supports. You can kind of see way out there. I think it only has 2 of them, but you can see 1 over there in the helix. But yeah, pleased with how this turned out, even though it took a long time, and also one of the many things with this game that drove me nuts about this thing was the color of the station randomly changes. I don't know what causes it, but for some reason the steel beams I use, sometimes I'll just look over at this right, and all of a sudden it's like super golden. And then I'll reload the save and it goes back to being yellow. So if you plop this blueprint down in your park, and all of a sudden all the colors look wrong, I don't know what to tell you. The game kind of just sucks. Anyways, over here on the other side of the path, we have this finished area now. The final ride of the what I'm calling the Magic Midway, because I always just called this the Midway. But I feel like a park would not just call an area the Midway. So I just, literally as I was making the sign, I had Midway on it, and I'm like, that kind of looks stupid. I don't know, it's Magic Midway now. So yeah, we have this little food cart here, just because guests are always hungry in this game. Except there's nobody around now. I thought that was a giant piece of trash. That's a bird. So now we kind of have this ride done. Very basic theming, because I was kind of going off of... Oh, except the top, but we'll get into that later. I was kind of going off of Windseeker at various Cedar Fair parks. Kind of a generic vibe to the ride. I like these queue line covers. Again, not the coolest details, most detailed thing, but it gets the job done. But yeah, guests don't really seem to care about this ride, which is fair because it has a fairly low scenery rating. It spins way too fast, but that's just how these rides work in this game. But yeah, that's pretty much it for this ride. Just a lot of basic scenery around it. This is, again, you could tell, I'm not going to go over the whole path thing. I've gone over that in the last 2 episodes, but you can tell that this was not originally here because of the path color. And speaking of not originally here, even though we're in the Midway, we have this building here, which is directly inspired by, I think it's like the guest services building at Cedar Point near the entrance. But yeah, just a generic like coffee shop thing, which I just call Happy Landings because it's like you get off the airplane. And honest to God, I will say I was thinking of the stupid line from Revenge of the Sith, another happy landing, when I built this. So it just became Happy Landings. I don't know. But yeah. So just that finally fills out the Midway here. So the Midway area is pretty much done. Even though this doesn't really look like a Midway, but that's kind of the vibe this park was getting anyway. We'll walk fast here. I guess the only other thing I changed is I did make slight modifications to the roller coaster, the Flying Cannonball, so it can now comfortably run 3 trains. Let's go ahead and run really quickly here to the memory lane area so we can talk about Hot Rod, because we finally got the update for custom supports. So I actually finally custom supported it and finally finished the landscaping around it. All these trees in front of us weren't really here the last time we talked about this ride. But yeah, we'll go around here. It's got an entrance sign here. Pretty basic thing, just fit the vibe of the rest of the ride. Except just with some flames behind the text. It's not the most detailed area in the world. It was never going to be. Because it's just not that type of ride. But you could see the loop now has 2 big supports holding it up, like you would see on an Aero roller coaster. The Helix over here has a couple of supports. They look wonky. I'm not really good with making custom supports. I never really did it in the first game. But I really just wanted to make sure that it had some clearance on the ride itself. So the train didn't look like you could reach out and like touch them. There's a couple areas where there's security fencing where the ride gets a little closer to the ground. A couple custom supports on each corkscrew just to make them a little better supported. But yeah, I think that is pretty much it. Oh, other than we'll go ahead and switch to aerial view now. Jesus, it's a mass exodus in the park. What the hell's going on right now? Besides, all the usual stuff. But yeah, that's pretty much the park as it is now and all the updates. I don't think I've touched anything else on this side of the park at all. But as I was talking about, this is one area where originally I was looking at this and I'm like, why does this area feel wrong? And it's because originally guests would have to either, if you're walking this way, you'd have to walk all the way right here and then take a right-hand turn. Or if you're walking from this way, you'd have to walk up to about right here and then take a hard left. And I'm like, this whole entry plaza is like a big circle, but everything is like this, where it's like a path just hard 90 degree, and that doesn't seem right. It doesn't seem like the park has natural flow. So I redid this to add this little pathway here, widen this one, and make it so that it like naturally curves off. And I think it just looks a lot better. Got a typical roller coaster, typical Planet Coaster 2 guest path thing where, God forbid, two people try and walk in opposite directions, or else the entire game just breaks. But yeah. So I kind of did the same thing over here. It's no longer like on a hard 90-degree turn. It still is over here. What in the hell is going on with this park right now? Like, why is there like a biblical entrance and exit here? It's all building up over the course of this video. We're going to go off at the end, I'm telling you. I don't know what's going on with this park right now. But, I don't even remember where I was. Oh, well, I'm in aerial view before we go off and all that. Here's the log flume. Just from the air. Again, very basic layout. The train runs underneath it. You just go up a couple lifts. You go up through the upper levels of the trees a little bit. You drop. Pretty typical stuff for more like generic American amusement park log flume. Get a nice aerial view here of the Maelstrom. Why is there nobody on that car? Why is there nobody on any of these cars? How is nobody riding this anymore? What the hell is going on? Oh, it's dated, so now no one wants to ride it. Okay. Whatever. The entire back of the park is completely empty. What in the shit? Alright, before we get into it, and I realize we're gonna get into it because I already recorded a version that was literally 20 minutes of me talking about everything wrong with this game. I'm going to spare you that, and I'm going to make my thoughts brief. But before we get into that, let's just go ahead and look at the park at night here. Not too many changes. A little bit of lighting here on the scenic railway. This area doesn't have a ton of lighting. I did put some lights around the dome up here. There's a little bit of lighting over here on the log flume. Quite a few spotlights actually on your Malstrom here. This sign is supposed to have an effect that doesn't work. Biting my tongue. Biting my tongue. What the hell do I even call this again? Sky Swinger has spotlights on it so that as it goes up, there's actually a spinny thing up here. And it gets illuminated once the ride reaches the top because of the spotlights on it. That's pretty much it for the park's updates. Now, I might as well say, I don't think I'm going to be continuing this park soon, if at all. Because honestly, I'm just real tired of this game. Because I'm recording this a week after the first update dropped. And a lot of the bugs that I was personally hoping were going to be fixed by that update weren't fixed by that update. Aren't listed to be fixed in a future update soon. Obviously, as I was walking around the park, all of a sudden I just had the random traffic jam of people in the middle of the day. And all the rides got abandoned. And I just feel like stuff like that happens constantly. And so I'm kind of just at a point where, like, I realize that I'm working on this because I want to get it done and filed away so I can go do something else. Now, I don't know if I'm going to completely finish playing Planet Coaster because I might make some individual themed rides. I'm definitely not working on another park anytime soon. I just... The game needs to get better before I do that. Like, I still have so many bugs where I'm like just trying to build a building and like the piece that I'm working on doesn't all of a sudden just becomes unselectable until I reload the game. Talking about this sign over here. This sign worked when I first built it. It just doesn't work anymore, and there's nothing I can do to fix it. Because if we go to the sequencer, all three of these lights are supposed to keep shining at different intervals to like give the impression of like a water like reflecting effect. And you can see if I move one of these a little bit and then I hit play, all of a sudden it works. But it only works when I hit play on here. Even though this is supposed to be playing all the time, it just doesn't. Like, you can see this is on trigger only. They're all set on trigger only. This is what's set to loop. It doesn't matter. Only one of these lights work. So it's like, even now where I'm like, well, maybe I'll make a dark ride. Do I want to make a dark ride? Because if I'm going to have things reliant on a sequencer, they're not going to work. I can't trust them to work. So why do it? I also went to go make a dark ride with the... Where is it? In here. The trackless dark ride. This one. Let me turn it back to day. Only to find out the camera doesn't even work on this ride type. Which the entire point of making a dark ride is to look at scenes, and so you really want to ride the ride. So that's just that's a ride that may as well not even be in the game. This is a ride that may as well not even be in the game because you have to make the ride length. If the ride length's any shorter than 10 feet, all of a sudden there aren't enough cars to fill the track. Also, apparently, if you try to have a separate load and unload with it, the game crashes. So I'm kind of at a point where I'm just like, everything I want to do with this game, I can't do because some stupid bug or some stupid design decision or some like stupid just... And then on top of that, a week ago they said like, here's update 1 that didn't fix any of the bugs that you wanted fixed, except for like 1. By the way, here's a bunch of content that we deliberately kept out of the game at launch so that we could sell it as $10 DLC later. Go fuck yourself. I ain't buying that shit. The rides that are already in the game don't work. Why would I buy more? So, this is already starting to build up into the really long rant that I've already had to cut from this video. So, I'm just going to leave it there and say, I don't know when you'll see this park again. You may never see it again. I definitely don't want to build a water park right now, because apparently if you build, like, any pools right now in the game, that's all the guests will do, and the entire rest of your park becomes abandoned, which I definitely don't want to have happen. So... yeah, I think we're just going to leave it right here where it is for now. Maybe I'll work on an individual ride concept, maybe not. Because I do like the model train building aspect of this game, and there's parts of it that I'm having fun with. But with this park specifically, I'm at a point where I'm just like... I feel like I'm trying to take shortcuts on things because I just want the park done and out of my life. And that's not the way to go about this. And I also got my... and also, honestly, one of the decisions that defined this was I got my Steam year in review. And my top 5 games listed by time, this was second. And the other 4 games, I'm like, man, that was a good game. And this one being listed second, I'm like, man, this game didn't deserve to be second on that list. It's not that good. So, that was kind of my sign that I'm like, maybe I shouldn't be spending all my time playing it. So... for now, that's it for Squadaland. Maybe not in the future. Maybe we'll see it again in the future. Maybe we won't. Maybe when they fix the game. So, otherwise, thank you very much for watching. And I'll see you whenever, I guess. Bye.